Bingo. Okay. All right, got 3 more people coming into the waiting room. Admit all. Welcome to Lunch with GreenTown. This is a 5-week series of talks on environmental issues of interest to GreenTown, and we are your local environmental group founded over 10 years ago. We have fun planting trees, and we will plant a dozen more next week, including 2 Valley Oaks at Shop Park on Saturday, 3 o'clock. It'll be a small, you can come watch if you want. We also have a popular summer internship program, and we take an interest in policy issues and will advocate for the things that we think are important, such as the REACH codes last year. Take a look at our website for more information and to volunteer to help. These lunch talks are 1 hour with time for questions. Use the chat feature to ask your questions. The talks are being recorded and will be posted soon. A big thank you to the Los Altos Parks and Rec Department for helping hosting this series. Another shout out to the Sereno Group. They provided the funds for our outreach with a grant from their 1% for Good Climate and Culture Fund. And now let's begin. Dia Gupta is with the Los Altos High School Green Team, and they are a very busy group, as you will certainly learn. Laura Texler is with the Los Altos Environmental Commission, another busy group, especially this year, as the city will evaluate the Climate Action Plan passed in 2013 and come up with a new plan. So on that note, we're going to start with Dia, and I have not done it yet, but I will make you a co-host. Oh shoot, that's not the button I wanted. Sorry, stop share. You are now a co-host, and you can share your, take the screen and show some slides.
All right. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, perfect. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this talk. Thank you for joining Lunch with GreenTown. And in this presentation, I'll just be talking a little bit about what Los Altos High School's Green Team has been working on over these past many months. We have a wide variety of activities and projects we've started and finished this year. And so feel free to type any questions you have in the chat so that we can make sure to get those answered. All right, so just a little bit about me to get started. My name is Dia Gupta. As I mentioned, I'm a junior at Los Altos High School, and my family has always been a very active family who enjoys hiking and traveling. And so I've always been surrounded by vast forms of nature and kind of have been taught from the very beginning to leave no trace wherever we go. I like to tell people that our family is kind of more of a hiking family. You'll never find us at the beach when there's vacation. You'll find us in a different state exploring a national park. And so I started coming to Green Team meetings just because I've always been captivated by the beauty of nature, and I just kind of wanted to help in any way that I could. And Green Team is such a great way to get involved, and it's helped me grow personally. I've been able to understand the importance of advocacy in youth and have been really able to understand how effort put in by students is really greatly reflected in just the community overall. All right, so now that you've learned a little bit about me and my background, you might be wondering why I'm here to talk to you and what I'm even talking about. So for those of you who don't know, the Los Altos High School's Green Team is an environmental club that focuses on promoting environmental responsibility as well as environmental sustainability to all students in the local community through projects and events. We also work closely with students and staff from our campus as well as beyond in order to ensure that our impact isn't just limited to our school or our household, but instead it's more of a community-wide impact. And so we just try and have our impact stretch from anywhere across the Bay Area and beyond. And so some of our past events on campus when we were in a conventional school setting are on this slide right here. Here in the top left corner, you'll see our little Earth Week little box, and it's a week-long event where we hold a different themed day for each day of the week. And so, for example, we hold Meatless Mondays, where we talk about the importance of choosing meatless products over meat ones for the sake of the environment, just knowing that the industry is kind of harmful. And so we also hold days like Renewable Energy Tuesdays, where we push for sustainable energy, solar-powered energy, and opposed to non-renewable energy. It's followed by Water Wednesdays, another popular Earth Week day, and so forth. Here, right, second up here, you'll see the holiday fair slide, and that is where many clubs at our school, including Green Team, make some kind of craft or goodie or treat to sell at our little fair. And so some of our most popular little goodies that we've sold have been dirt cups, which are little pudding and brownie cups with little gummy worms, along with pressed flower cards. Over here on the right, you'll see our anti-idling campaign, and this pushes for the complete stop of all idling on campus. And we do this through putting up signs around campus, like the one shown in this picture. We've also been able to place these all around the carpool lanes, as well as in the main student parking lot in the valet area. And students tend to stand by the valet area or carpool sections and talk to car owners about the importance of stopping idling. They hand out flyers and stickers and car decals. And so we really work not only with empowering our students to stop idling, but also extending our impact beyond to the community also present, such as parents and guardians who come to drop off and pick up their students. And another event here, oh, and a special thank you to GreenTown for also helping to support this anti-idling initiative as well. And below we have our electric vehicle day. And this is held conventionally in the quad, and we have electric vehicle owners come in and park their cars on our main campus. Students are then able to go to different cars, talk to car owners about their positive experiences with their electric vehicles, and then prizes are just handed out accordingly depending on questions asked and engagement and things like that. All right, so some more past events that Green Team has been involved in include marsh cleanups and beach cleanups, as well as tree planting. And so these cleanups also not only focus on just leaving no trace and kind of helping our public lands be a little cleaner than they were when we first got there, but they also focus on team bonding and getting to know one another better. Again, special thank you to GreenTown for helping make a lot of these opportunities possible, such as the tree planting. And another one of our past events is our in-person Students for Green High Schools Conference, our annual conference. And this conference, which you'll hear a little bit more about later, brings together students from all over the Bay. And it's just a really great way for students to not only push for sustainability, but also learn from the environmentalists around them to help create better initiatives and to better their clubs as a whole. All right, so I guess now would be a good time to kind of gauge for questions. I don't think we have any in the chat, but if not, we can go ahead and move on to more of our recent successes, where we'll talk a little bit more about SFGHS.
Sounds good. Let's move on.
Okay. All right. So our Students for Green High School Conference is something that we were able to move from an in-person setting to virtual this year due to the pandemic. And so all of these photos are from last year's conference, but we're really thankful we were able to make it virtual and able to have it nonetheless. There were so many, although it was difficult to have a virtual conference and it was just different than what we had been used to before. There were so many advantages to having virtual collaboration and online environmental efforts. We were able to have students from all across the world join us. We had attendees not only from all over California and the country, but also students from Colombia and Canada were able to join us this year. Something that's really a treat and something that is an advantage of an online platform like this. We were also able to hear from two speakers, Ravi Thakur, who taught us about the benefits of plant protein, and then Max Wilcox, who taught us about electric vehicles and sustainable charging and things like that. We also focused on a lot of breakout room discussions and worked in small groups to answer questions and to brainstorm kind of ways that we could kind of as a group of students push for sustainability and advocacy, not only within our school, but also beyond. And so these conferences, or SFGHS annual conferences, have had a great impact on not only the students individually, but also on clubs themselves. And so some of our projects that I'll go into depth into a little later are actually inspired by a lot of what we've talked about at these Students for Green High School conferences. And so our virtual conference was definitely a success this year and something worth celebrating. And again, even with the differences that virtual learning proposed, we were still able to kind of leave the meeting feeling very knowledgeable and inspired than when we first joined. All right, I don't see any questions again, so I think so these next handful of slides will go over some of the projects that Green Team has been working on over the past handful of months. And so I will paste a link in the chat right now that is a link to where all of our projects are, and it links back to our website as well. And that is the link in the chat right now. And so if you're interested, you can take a look at those as well as I go into more detail about some of the projects we've been working on over the year. All right, so to begin, here are some of our first semester projects, just a gallery of them, all of which have been going on throughout COVID. And so students who worked on the Superfund project, which is the project right here on the top left corner, created an Instagram media campaign to educate others about East Palo Alto's Superfund program and the challenges it faces. For the blog project, the activities chairs and public relations teamed up to write monthly blog posts, and they're currently working on a post about Biden's climate plan and hope to push out more as the weeks progress. Many of our Green Team officers and members have also written blog posts and have been able to share a lot about what they've learned as young environmentalists through this project, which has been really neat. I recommend that if you have time, that's definitely something that I would recommend you look over and read some of these blogs that have been written by really well-versed environmentalist students. The City Council project endorsed eco-conscious city council candidates for Los Altos and Mountain View, and we collaborated with Los Altos residents as well as Mountain View High School Sunrise Club. And all these other projects on the slides that I have not talked about, well, we will go into depth later on as the presentation moves forward. Here are some of our second semester projects that we have been working on during COVID as well. And many of these are also projects that have just been started or projects that are ongoing. And so the Mountain View Los Altos Middle School project, which you'll see on the bottom left corner, works with helping students implement similar sustainable changes that Los Altos High School has implemented, such as providing reusable water bottles and things like that, just to push for sustainability amongst middle school campuses, just like we've been able to have here at our high school campus. And so Green Team has overall, another benefit of virtual learning is we've been able to collaborate with a lot more organizations across the Bay, organizations including the Bay Area Youth Lobbying Initiative, Gun Green Team, Mountain View High School Sunrise, which I mentioned above, and more. And we've been also working on a lot of community justice effort projects, such as our fire safety group, as well as the Mountain View Los Altos Middle School project. And we've also, another thing that online school has kind of inspired us to do is to push for more education. And so our E Squared project, or our environmental education project, pushes for educating, just as our sustainable eating project pushes for that, our climate EDU, as well as fire safety. And so that is just kind of a brief overview of a lot of the projects that we've started second semester, many of which do have yet to be completed and closed off, but just something that we've been starting on. So to go more into depth about individual projects, we have here the Sustainable Eating Project. And so this project is one of our newer projects, something that's recently been started up. And the goal of this project is to educate people about the importance of food sustainability and to provide tools for habitual change. And so currently the team is focusing on two main projects, one of them being a speaker event and then one of them being a living resource. And so the speaker event is going to be some kind of educational event that's targeted towards students as well as parents. And so the goal of this event is to really dig deeper into what makes certain foods more sustainable than others and to help people understand the reasons behind why change is really needed. And so this project is still kind of new, as I mentioned before, so the team is still figuring out as to what direction they want to take the speaker event and whether it's going to be one large event with multiple speakers, a speaker series, kind of like this talk here, Launch with Greentown, things like that, or just a series of short interviews. And then the living resource is a planned Instagram or social media page where different resources will be presented, such as different opportunities for sustainable restaurants and places to get quick and sustainable snacks, easy recipes, full meals, fun facts, things that engage students that are on that social media platform that are able to learn from following this interactive page. And our next project that I'll be going over a little is our Lobbying for SU project. And so this is a project that we have partnered with the Bay Area Youth Lobbying Initiative with, or Bailey. And this Bailey is a student-based organization that's centered around empowering individuals to affect long-term climate policy. And so we've partnered with them to dedicate and ensure that students are able to get involved in democracy and getting involved in making a difference, as well as kind of bridging the gap between activism and activists, as well as elected officials, in order to create a more long-term change in the climate environmental policies that affect our generation, as well as will affect generations to come. And as a school, as Los Altos High School, in Congresswoman Anna Eshu's district, the Los Altos High School's Green Team plans to be more involved in lobbying for Eshu to represent youth voice in her district about climate policy. And so we are still working with Bailey as well as California legislators and working on promoting upcoming events to the both general public as well as to various schools across the Bay Area. We don't have a policy-based project yet specifically, but we're hoping to expand this project further and help to kind of ensure the connection between federal officials as well as students and activists, and just to ensure that our voice is able to be heard by elected officials through this project. The next project that I'll talk a little bit about is our Reach Code project, which I'm pretty sure everyone involved in GreenTown Los Altos is pretty familiar with. And so we've recently pushed for the advocation of Reach Codes, which are ordinances for building electrification and improved electric vehicle infrastructure. And so we supported GreenTown through their online Instagram and Facebook and social media campaigns, and as well as we encourage friends and family to write letters to City Council. And so our public comments kind of transitioned with equal force from in-person to Zoom City Council meetings to adapt to this pandemic and to the restrictions that the pandemic proposed. And we also reached out to Carbon Free Mountain View to learn about how they passed Reach Codes in their city, and a number of Green Team members were able to speak during the virtual public comment section of the City Council meeting in order to support Reach Codes on the day of the vote. And so excitedly, a version of the Reach Codes proposal has since been passed by Council, which is great news. Let's switch the slide. All right. All right, so the next project that I'll be talking a little bit more about is the Buy Better Boba project. And so the Green Team, along with other clubs, noticed that Los Altos High School's clubs rely on-campus boba fundraisers to raise money for their club. And so each event that involves this kind of boba fundraiser inevitably does create a lot of unnecessary waste. And so the Buy Better Boba project aims to fix this and aims to avoid this waste created by on-campus fundraisers. And so this project was actually inspired by Harker Green Team's Buy Better Boba initiative. And so we were able to learn about it at the Students for Green High School fundraiser from Students for Green High School conference, from a couple of years ago, which shows you the impact that conference has been able to have on our club individually as well. And so this specific project, our Buy Better Boba initiative, is what helped our school switch from the use of plastic to bamboo straws for all future fundraisers. And so we worked with ASB and admin to reach a consensus on this switch. and hopefully it will go into 100% action soon, especially when we're back on campus. And so this is really, really amazing that we've been able to accomplish this, and the team has been able to accomplish this amidst the pandemic as well. And so the next steps for this project are just to maybe work with ASB and admin again to eliminate all plastic cups and to eventually reach our goal of having zero waste Boba fundraisers in all of the school. And so I will paste a link to our proposal that that will kind of help you maybe learn a little bit more about this project, as well as kind of what we're aiming to do. All right, so the next project that I will talk a little bit more about has to do with fire safety and emergency preparedness project. And so the Green Team and I noticed that low-income families are being hit first and hit hardest by the impacts of climate change. So our project aims to tackle this by providing materials to help families protect themselves in case of a fire and in case of increased air pollution. And so we're in the process of assembling over 300 fire safety kits, most of which will be donated through the Second Harvest Food Bank, as well as in another organization in East Palo Alto. And so we have also noticed that emergency preparedness education is something that's really important, along with the distribution of fire safety kits. And so we kind of added on to our project in order to ensure that we are able to educate younger grades so that we can help form a society that in general is better equipped for fire-related natural disasters. And so we've emailed more than 35 schools around our area with a pre-recorded video, a Kahoot, as well as a presentation that goes over some of us and our project members who have gone over what we want to preach and what we want students to learn about emergency preparedness. And so we've also presented live at a school at Crittenden. And so we are looking into doing that more to ensure that our impact is vast and to ensure that we're able to reach the greatest amount of schools and students and families through this cause of creating, assembling, and then educating about emergency preparedness as well as fire safety. All right. So the next project was National Drive Electric Week, which happened last semester. And so as I mentioned earlier, National Drive Electric Week is actually conventionally Electric Vehicle Day, as mentioned earlier on in the presentation. And so this year, due to COVID, we took it online with informative sessions and games to educate students. And so we started planning this project over the summer because it's normally one of our first events in the school year, but plans kept changing due to COVID. So we decided to launch a virtual event and to keep it online. And so we provided informational sessions and games to educate students who we wanted to really educate and think it's important to educate because those are the drivers of the future. And so this project just aimed to inform students and staff about the importance of eliminating conventional gas-powered vehicles from society. And throughout the week, we pushed out videos that gave out information about electric vehicles in general, as well as how they directly impact our community as a whole. Students were asked to fill out a Google form with answers relating to videos that they were assigned to watch. And so the winners of this Google form, whoever got the most answers correct after watching these videos and absorbing the information we had pushed out, were awarded succulent prizes and other little sustainable goodies. And so on the last day of this event, students attended a live Zoom and were able to listen to a presentation about electric vehicles, as well as about the way that they not only impact our community here at Los Altos, but also in the world beyond. I also talked at the GreenTown Los Altos event and a meeting in order to reach the community outside of just ours at Los Altos High School. And so overall, Green Team has had such a positive impact on the community. And so I'm thrilled to be able to be here and to present to you all on behalf of the Green Team. 12 plus projects have been going on throughout the course of the school year, despite our virtual setting and despite the issues that virtual setting has, or the complications, I guess, that go hand in hand with virtual learning. But our students were able to work on 12 plus different projects. 44 different organizations were also able to attend our virtual 7th annual Students for Green High School Conference, which makes it the largest, the greatest amount of organizations that have ever been present at a Green Team conference before. We've also been able to reduce on-campus idling by over 80%. And so this is something that that's really profound, as well as the fact that we've diverted over 4,000 pounds of e-waste from landfills through the last year's e-waste collection event that is traditionally held on campus. And so that is just the end of my presentation, the end of kind of what I have for you, the updates that I had about Green Team and what we've been working on for the past couple months. Thank you to GreenTown Los Altos for letting me speak on behalf of Green Team at this event. Thank you all for supporting Green Team, and the club's contact information is on the slide as well as my own. And so you can feel free to contact me with any questions or Green Team with any questions, and our Instagram is also pasted there. But I think that's all I have for my presentation, but I believe we still have a couple minutes for questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, I gotta say, you are very impressive. The Green Team is very impressive. I've been looking at the chat box, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. It's, I think it's pretty universally felt. And Greentown loves working with you. So much of what you've done is right connected so directly with what we want to accomplish. You've supported us with talking to the city about single-use plastic, REACH codes, electric cars, and this Saturday, I mentioned there will be a tree planting, and the Green Team will be there planting trees. And I told the mayor about this, and she really enjoys what you're doing as well, and supports it. And I think she's going to show up and thank you personally, or whoever it is from the Green Team who will be there. Maybe you can show up 3 o'clock. Anyway, that's wonderful. Does anybody have a question? Because we are going to jump in and have Laura give her talk. And along that line, I'm sure one of the big things coming up for the Environmental Commission and the city is the new climate action plan. And I'm sure there'll be a role for the Green Team in that, both helping us understand it and joining up in the workshops that will be coming along as part of the evaluation and preparing for the next plan, and then speaking to council. So there'll be plenty for you to do, as if you don't have enough.
Hey, Gary, it's Margie. I have a quick question.
Please.
So my question has to do with, it looks like you were able to get so much done in a virtual environment, and that is fabulous. What was your strategy? Like, what worked well for you to engage people, students, and even recruit students for the Green Team this year?
So I think just from a club member perspective, something that the Green Team did really well was push for student engagement. And so students, club members, officers were able to kind of pick what they were interested in doing, and were able to apply that to the projects they were a part of. So for example, I was really interested in social justice and as well as environmentalism. And so that's why I kind of was able to be a part of the fire safety group. And so I think in most settings, when you have students working with what they're interested in, you get the best output. And so that's just kind of what we did, is we let students pick projects that they were interested in. They got to work with who they wanted to work with. And so it was more of a open-ended structure. And I think it ended up working really well, just with students being able to decide for themselves what they wanted to be a part of. And students were able to put in a lot more effort with things that they were interested in as well.
How big is your team?
Audrey, Margaret might be able to answer that better than I might be, but
I would say
Sounds like it must be enormous.
about, okay, Audrey says around like
There's
20
the
to
answer.
30 people.
20 to 30.
Right.
Well, that's not as big as I thought, to tell you the truth. Thank you, Audrey. And oh yeah, Sybil asked, where will the tree planting be? At Shop Park, 2 Valley Oaks. Anyway, it's now time for Laura to jump in there, and you can just grab the screen, go to screen share, and take your turn.
All right. Well, thank you. And let me get mine started. Well, thank you, Greentown, Gary, for inviting me today and to share a little bit about what we do on the commission and how you can get involved. First, I want to say thank you, Dia. It's hard to follow that. My slides are much less pretty and exciting, but hopefully you'll bear with me. And as the PTSA member who talks to all the clubs who want grant money from the PTSA, and a lot of the ones come and ask for funding to fundraise with a Boba fundraiser. And last year, not this past year, but the year before, when I was talking to all the clubs and they were all doing these Boba fundraisers, and every time I would cringe a little bit inside thinking of all that plastic. So that's one of my favorite green team projects is the waste-free Boba fundraisers. That would be awesome. So yes, I am vice chair of the Environmental Commission, and this is just a little bit of overview about what I'm going to be talking to you about today. Pretty simple, straightforward. So this is just a brief description. And this is important because, you know, our role is to study and make recommendations to council on issues that affect the natural and built environment of the city. And so that is what we do. You can see who our current members are. We currently have 6, and we should hopefully be getting our 7th member back soon. I believe the council is going to be appointing someone to our open position soon. So we are driven by our work plan, and it's broken down into the four project areas. You can see here the big project areas of our climate action plan, water conservation and storm water management, solid waste diversion, and community outreach and education. And over on the right, just as an example, I broke down that, each one of those broader areas is broken down into different tasks, which can vary over time based on kind of council direction or what needs to be addressed at that time. So community outreach and education is a broad topic, and we'll focus at different times on individual things within that topic. And we do kind of our behind the scene work as a subcommittee, which is 2 to 3 commissioners, usually a staff member, and then we bring those reports back to the commission and have a public discussion about recommendations at the full commission level. So this is just a couple of some of the things that we have accomplished in the past several years and the impact of those projects. And I know that you heard a lot of detail in one of the other Greentown talks about the Mission Trail waste contract and the impact of the increased diversion there. And I think one theme I kind of want to point out here is you see on this slide some of the things that Dia talked about and that the Greentown has worked on a lot if you've been active with Greentown. And this synergy is really important, I believe, for us as a city to make progress. So I started out by saying, what is our role as our commission, right? We do a lot of the research. We get direction from council. We provide input to them. But the input and the value that the education and advocacy efforts of groups like Greentown and Green Team are really important. You're educating the public and you're advocating for a sustainable approach to many of these issues. And have working on reach codes, I really truly appreciated the vital role that both those groups played in adopting reach codes. You helped dispel some of the misconceptions about what electric buildings are and promote a lot of the benefits of electric buildings. And that was really a vital part of getting reach codes passed. You know, having green team members talk at the council meetings and provide the perspective of why are we looking at reach codes? Why are they important? And thinking about, you know, we need to make responsible choices for the future of our town and the future inhabitants and our young people. That was really impactful in helping us drive towards the reach codes. So I just want to say that model, that synergy is really important, I believe, to helping us move forward as a city. That we need you as, you know, doing the outreach, doing more of the advocacy arm of the process. So I just wanted to throw this slide up there to show, you know, what all this means in terms of emission reductions. So just this is an impact, or the beneficial impact of mainly of joining Silicon Valley Clean Energy. So, you know, you can see immediately our emissions drop precipitously from that one action. And, you know, that was a project that we as a commission spent a lot of time researching what the different options for joining a community choice energy program were. And presenting to council what our recommendation was, and it was really it was a great project in that we can see the immediate impacts of that. Reach codes, I think, will take a little bit longer to see, but they will be there eventually. Okay, so what's next? As Gary has mentioned, we are, I'll say finally, updating or adopting a new climate action and adaptation plan. So our former plan, our current plan, was adopted in 2013. So, you know, things have changed a little bit since then. And in January, the commission and our wonderful staff member, Amiko Anchetta, who we're thrilled to have on board as our sustainability coordinator, we began working with a consultant, you know, finding and chose a consultant. EcoShift is the name of the organization, and they will be helping us to prepare the climate action and adaptation. That is it's a lot easier just to say CAP. Our new plan. And so I've outlined the kind of the tasks that are part of that agreement we have with EcoShift, and you can see what they will be doing for us in the you know, finalized plan, or the end of their work should be around November. So we will be doing a new GHG inventory, and we'll also be doing a vulnerability assessment, or they will, for the most part. So, and that looks at, you know, what climate risks are really that the city of Los Altos is most exposed to. Is it sea level rise, drought, extreme heat, flooding, wildfire, all those things that we're becoming all too familiar with. And so this plan will not only look at measures that we can do to reduce emissions, but how we need to prepare for those risks that will be most prevalent for us here in Los Altos. And so what I kind of want to emphasize about this process is the need for community input. And so far, the subcommittee has identified this list of stakeholder groups to seek input from. And I don't mean that this is the exhaustive list of the only groups that we're going to be talking to. But this is just kind of a start. And again, I want to emphasize that we're thinking also about how do we involve a broader range of residents and residents and businesses in the process. How do we add more public workshops into the contract so we really get not only the input but the buy-in of our community into this really important plan. So for example, something like a single-use plastic ban or ordinance, which we did begin to look at in this earlier this year, and we quickly realized that this is going to impact our restaurants at a time when they really are struggling. And so we need to be able to work collaboratively with different groups on all of these types of decisions. So we will be working with all other commissions, what their master plans are, because there are elements in what the Complete Streets Commission does, in what Parks and Rec Commission does, a lot of other commissions in their work that will need to be part of planning for the Climate Action Plan. So this is, our role as a commission is we're helping to direct the process. We're interfacing with the consultant. We're doing research. We're working with other commissions. We're providing input and expertise to staff and the consultant. But we need the voice of the broader public. And what is your vision for the city's effort on climate? What measures do you think are fundamental and achievable to reach our goals? What even should our goal of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan be? So, again, we need to be looking at this from a broader perspective of what the whole community is buying into here. Sorry, this table looks a little wonky. I kind of had to cut and paste it, but this is kind of one of the first questions is, here's a sampling of different international, national, local targets that have been laid forth in different plans. Well, what is our target going to be, and when do we want to achieve it by? That's going to be, a very important question for us to figure out in this plan. And this is an example of what other cities have done, and where do we want to put our stake in the ground as what our goal as a city is. And given that, I just want to point out that the City Council just adopted their priorities for the year. At Council Priority number 6, which I don't know, Gary asked if they were in order. I don't believe they're in order. I think this just happens to be number 6. But environmental sustainability is on their priority list for 2021. And it says the City of Los Altos will be a leader on environmental sustainability through education and adopting, embracing policies, initiatives, and practices that advance this effort. So given that priority, I believe that should be folded into whatever goal we're setting for ourselves in our new climate action and adaptation plan. So I think my main message here today,
Laura, that I think you're absolutely right, and I love that it says we will be a leader on environmental sustainability. So we'll put them to the test on that with the climate action plan. If you were willing to go back to that previous slide, it was interesting to me the variety of targets that cities have set. 80% below 1990 levels by 2030. That's pretty ambitious. Some people are not setting it as high as that. That's Santa Monica. Carbon neutral by 2050. So I think we're all going to be watching with great interest to see where Los Altos fits. But the advantage then also is to look at these cities have already done it. And so that they give us a lot of guidance, a lot of good help as we do our plan. And I presume you're going to look at some of these and pick and choose and pull out the best parts.
Yes, and our consultant, gonna forget which ones, but worked on some of these plans. And yes, they've included a couple of these plans as kind of models for what we can think about, what we could structure ours like or not. So yes, we don't need to start from scratch, right? We don't need, why can we not look at what Menlo Park did, or Mountain View? So yes, that I think that will be informative. But again, I think again, my message is, I would like to see a lot of community input into particularly this question around what is our target, and what actions do we believe as a community we can and will take. It's one thing to set an action out there. It's another thing to achieve it. And a lot of these things will require investment from the entire community to achieve them. So with that, I will end and pose that as my challenge to you to, be involved in the process, and you can at any time come to a commission meeting, make a public comment, even if it's not on the agenda. Let us know what your priorities are. I do hope that we will be able to have a robust public input process. So thank you all.
Yeah, that will be great. And one thing about virtual meetings is it's very easy to attend them. You don't have to get up and go anywhere. You can just log onto your computer. Bill Shreve asked a good question that we heard about good urban planning and how important that is when we had the talk by Allison Hicks a couple of weeks ago. Is urban planning going to be part of the package when you look at your new climate action plan?
I would assume so. Again, we're not yet to that stage of detail about what measures, what specific measures will be in it. But I would, all of those decisions, housing decisions, all of those things ultimately play into emissions, right? So in good urban planning, I mean, in the past we've had input into stormwater management, and there's just so many different aspects of urban planning that do impact our emissions, whether it be directly or indirectly. So I would imagine it will be folded in. It may not be, it will probably be a section or somehow included in some form of urban planning, but for sure that will be included.
And the other one that Dia talked about, that one of the interests that they have is sustainable eating, and that's something that doesn't really get put into climate action plans that easily. Maybe the metrics just are hard to follow, but we've had a couple of talks now. We heard from folks at Hidden Villa about how that can be so helpful. And we're going to have another talk next Tuesday, actually, that's on plant-based eating and why that's important. So this is a topic of great importance, and I hope that can get folded into the climate action plan as well.
And I would assume and expect that there will be measures that will, while difficult to track because they're individual actions, that will be included in some sort of education and outreach section, that there are things that a city can do to promote certain practices, and I would expect perhaps that that would be folded in that way, whether it be some sort of working with our restaurants to promote plant-based eating, or programs through library, Parks and Rec, or whatever, to educate residents about the benefits. So I think it will be folded in. It may not be in a as measurable a way, perhaps, as some of the other more tangible actions.
Yeah, but at least we'll promote some educational opportunities. So Sybil asked, when does the Environmental Commission meet? It's the second Monday in the evening at 7 o'clock. And then Margie has a question regarding the scope. Take it away, Margie.
Oh, thanks, Gary. Hi, Laura. One of the things that I have kind of a beef about is that most climate action plans are done with an inventory that is a production-based inventory and doesn't account for consumption. You and Gary chatted about, that conversation about eating is part of it, but the clothes we wear, all of the things that we buy are all part of our consumption. And we're such a residential community that this ends up being maybe another doubling of the greenhouse gas emissions. At least Portland, Oregon has done a consumption-based inventory. Park City, Utah has done a consumption-based inventory. I think Palo Alto tried to address it a little bit. To what extent is the Environmental Commission looking at that, or the consultant looking at that as an option to also include in the inventory?
So I'm not serving on the subcommittee for this. I haven't been involved in those level of detailed discussions, but it certainly is something that I will bring up, see what the plan is for the inventory and the specifics of that. I think we're early on enough in the planning phases that could be something that, if it's not already part of the plan, could be at least discussed. Now there might be, they might push back and say it's, it will take too much time, or it's too difficult to measure, or, whatever else, but it's certainly a question we can ask.
Yeah, and right, or at the very least, conveying that practically doubling of the emissions from those things we consume. I can share some resources with you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to let you know, Bruno, I don't know if you know Bruno Delagno,
Yes,
is chairing that subcommittee. So you can also send that directly to him, and he's a pretty metric-based guy, so he will probably appreciate that input.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
And then take another look at that very first talk that we had with Steve Schmidt. He reduced his personal greenhouse gas emissions, or his carbon footprint, if you will, by, I forget the percentage, a huge percentage, and he still has a good quality of life. And so it can be done on a personal level. It is possible, and without really too many sacrifices. Just have to be careful with how you run your life. Anybody else?
Gary, how can ordinary residents of Los Altos get the Zoom link to attend the Environmental Commission meetings?
Go to the city website, and then there's a whole list of all the commissions. And when you click on those, it'll take you to their calendar and their upcoming events.
Thanks.
Yep. And I'm going to take a look at the Green Team website. I haven't done that. I must apologize, but it's amazing what you've done. I want to read some of those blogs. I'm looking back here at some of the questions that popped up.
When might we expect an update on the single-use plastic ordinance?
Now I'm trying to remember what the so council said when we brought the proposal, we need to put this on hold. And I'm trying to remember the time frame, if they gave us a time frame for when we would be bringing it back. I would guess, second half of this year.
Yeah,
But-
Laura. Hi, it's Donna Staten. I'm on the GreenTown Los Altos and passionate about plastic use. And sadly, I think it's going to not come up any sooner than the second half of this year, maybe even 2022. But on the bright side, there's some very exciting legislation happening at the state level to limit single-use plastic and to make sure that things that we do use in a disposable way are truly recyclable or compostable. So the state might come through for us on this one.
Right. And the ordinance we had been looking at was, food serviceware, and even subset of that, it was what we were calling the word
Accessories.
Thank you. So it was pretty limited scope at this point, and there had been a countywide effort that, due to COVID, went basically dark. So hopefully those things will start to ramp back up again, and we can bring a much fuller, more robust ordinance that includes all food serviceware that has perhaps will be done by different cities as well as the counties, so not just Los Altos. And we needed also, we felt like, to work, get more answers from what is actually truly compostable in our waste system through Mission Trail. What are the alternatives? How much do they cost? So there were quite a few questions we wanted more clarity on.
Donna, I wanted to comment on the state bills that in the past, we've all been very disappointed with state bills about banning plastic or plastic bags, whatever, getting very strong opposition from oil companies because plastic is made out of oil. And so I hope GreenTown will mount an effort to engage the public, to write all their legislators and give a reason for them to stand up to the pressure of corporations and pass the bill.
Thank you, Sybil, and that's a good message for everybody here, is to stay engaged, pay attention, and when these important measures do come up, whether it's state or local city council, to speak up. And so we're down to the last minute, so I'm going to make two comments. One, the Los Altos History Museum has an exhibition that just opened this past weekend called Beauty and the Beast. Beautiful photography of wildflowers in the state of California. It's really stunning. And then the message is, well, the beast is climate change and what that will do to the flowers and so much more. And so there are some hopeful panels of, again, things that people can do and also other actions that need to be taken. So go see that. It's open just Saturdays and Sundays right now because of we're still tiptoeing into being fully open, but we are 25% capacity. So that's open from 12 to 4. And then the next talk's coming up. On Tuesday, we'll have a talk about the future of food. And the future will certainly include more plant-based eating. And my invitation to the group, when I send out to the BCC list, will include some recipes for you to try. And then on Thursday, we'll have artist Linda Gass, who is showing us that art can change our environmental consciousness. Linda is one of the original members, or at least goes way back with GreenTown. So she's a favorite of us all, and you're going to love that talk. It's beautiful art that she does, and so don't miss it. So that's coming up, and look at that, 1 o'clock, right on schedule. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for showing up. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.